Welcome back, Space Marine 2 Ultramarines fans. This is Sprues and Studs, and I have to apologize to you all for being a little bit tardy on the release of this comparison video. There have been a lot of new action figures that have come out, and those obviously take priority, but now things have sort of slowed down, so I can go back on some content that I promised you all. So wrapping up the current line of Space Marine 2 action figure videos is the comparison between the OG Victrix guard versus the New Blood Victrix guard. So join me in this comparison video to see which Victrix guard reigns supreme. Starting off this comparison video, we have this OG Victrix guard, and the first thing about the helmet area that strikes me is how dull looking this eagle is on this one. To be honest, the color is not even gold. It's almost like the soul was sucked out of the copper, but at least there was some prominent shading that can be found in the wing area. By contrast, the SM2 Victrix guard has a more pleasant, vibrant, and warm gold for the eagle, which looks much nicer. You will notice, however, that the eagle is completely devoid of any sort of shading, which is always a shame. Finally, the eyes are a matte red, as opposed to the dark red of this unlit LED lens, but in all honesty, I think I prefer the lenses of the old action figure because you can see them much better. The pauldrons of the OG one has the good old veteran white banding on it, which makes sense because OGs should protect Calgar, but there is a very large difference in color with the SM2 version. The outline is clearly gold on this one, and then silver on the other one, which makes me wonder why JoyToy decided to change the look of it. Either way, the purposeful mismatch is quite an interesting design cue. Both of the pauldrons have the same Ultramarines U. Then the new one is vastly different with the sunburst around the skull and the banner below. The OG one is clearly much simpler with just veteran skull badging. Then the design on the icon on the forearms are relatively the same on both, although it kind of sucks that the metal is dull on the old one versus the new. Overall, for the pauldrons and arms, I prefer the look of the SM2 one. Now, while the general look of the chest is the same, the execution is rather different. Sure, both of them have this cord that wraps in front of the double Aquila, but the OG one has a better looking one because, well, look what shading can do for you in the figure. The Space Marine 2 one looks a bit pathetic and underdecorated. What's strange with regard to the double Aquila of the original bodyguard, the metallic gold of this Aquila does not match the rest of the gold on the figure. This thankfully was corrected on this new one. Alright folks, if you're enjoying this in-depth comparison video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can see even more in-depth comparison videos. I have a long library of comparison videos that you can feast your eyes upon, so make sure again to hit that subscribe button. Moving down to the waist area, again the decorations that are used for both of these action figures are widely the same. You have the same Space Marine bone relic right here. The skull that is cradled between the white U is the same. And the Baltea have the same look as well, especially with the rivets that are here and below the buckle. Even at the end of these leather strips, both of them have U medallions. So I'm glad that there's continuity across these two action figures. However, I really like the Baltea of the old bodyguard because there is motion that is conveyed through the waviness of the plastic. I suppose the only drawback is this bone relic is kind of slappily painted compared to the more refined new one on this bodyguard. Another thing I want to mention is that this OG1 is rocking these pouches, while this one has no pouch at all. Legs wise, there's not too much to comment on. Even the silver crux on the left knee is about the same too. You have a good amount of weathering on both due to the gunmetal highlighting. I suppose the only difference is this purity seal right here, and the OG one has a U on the right knee. In terms of overall look, I would say that both of them weigh in quite equally in my book, so I do not have a preference of one over the other. The backpacks look all relatively the same, except the Space Marine 2 one looks more complicated. These top vents have more definition with this grille, while this regular one just have grooves in the armor. I really like the gold and white icon on the Space Marine 2 one way better than this regular one because this regular one, the U is screened on, as opposed to this new one which has a raised icon. One of the biggest differences between the action figures are the capes that they are rocking. So the OG meat shield comes with two different capes. The first one has kind of a battle ready one that you can affix to the back via a backpack. Then he also has a wider ceremonial one that also can be attached to the back via the backpack. The seals on the side allow you to loosely wrap the cape around the pauldrons, much like this new meat shield. So this new one only comes with the ceremonial one, and it comes automatically attached to the pauldron via these decorations here, which I am not exactly a fan of because it blocks the decorations on the pauldrons and also restricts movement. Looks wise, I would have to say the OG ones have a better shading and look more velvety, more flowy look than this Space Marine 2 one. Right off the bat, I would say that there's really no comparison in between the two power swords because the Space Marine 2 Victrix Guard sword right here is way better. Just look at it. There's so much more detail, so much more decoration that JoyToy decided to put on this edge blade. The Latin words are raised off the blade. It has this interesting looking center groove region, and not to mention that this hilt looks absolutely glorious. In one of my other review videos, I commented how I loved this decorative icon doubles as a hand protector too. Even this pommel looks fantastic. Then you go back to the OG one and it looks as simple as a caveman's club. It really doesn't have any of the stuff that I described with this other one, so hands down, the new one gets the W. Much like the power swords, I feel the same way with regards to the shields. This is an exaggeration, but the old one's shield looks something that an older child can make. And then in comparison, this new one is a full work of art crafted by a master artisan. There is so much glorious detail on the shield. The eagle feathers are highly defined, while the OG one only has these light tufts. Then you will notice that there is no detail on the eagle head at all, as compared to the texturing on this one. Also in terms of design, this SM2 one has a loop that wraps around the forearm, while simultaneously allowing the Marine to hold the handle. This tech was not around for the old one, who only has this handle right here. This loop is actually a major thing because it prevents the forearm from drooping due to the weight of the shield. So again, the new blood gets my nod. In terms of scaling, interestingly enough, the OG Victrix Guard seems to scale pretty decently with Old Man Calgar. However, looking at the Space Marine 2 Calgar versus the new Victrix Guard, I think the bulkiness of the SM2 Gravis armor seems to look better against the regular MK10 armor of the Victrix Guard. So just by feel and eyeball, I would have to say that the new scaling looks better than the old one. All in all, I would have to say that we saw some really stark contrast between these two action figures, but simultaneously, they still have a lot in common as well. Obviously, the general aesthetic of these action figures are the same, but the execution is quite different. I think the most off-putting thing about the OG action figure is how the gold on this action figure really didn't match. The gold on the helmet looks completely weird compared to the gold that's on the chest. And the new one got that right, but it has absolutely no shading to make the gold stand out a little bit more. I do like the capes of the OG one, but I would have to say that the shield as well as the sword of the new one completely blows the old one out of the water. Another thing I forgot to mention during the comparison video is that the OG Victrix Guard are based off of the V2 action figures, while the new ones is obviously based off the V4. And the V2 action figures' hands are very stiff and not very pliable, so that is a little bit of a strike against that action figure as well. So all in all, sadly or not sadly, the new action figure has definitely eclipsed the old action figure, which means that if you were given the choice, I would definitely go for the Space Marine 2 version of the Victrix Guard. And if you are compelled to buy the Victrix Guard, just click in the link in the description below, or you will be brought to David Toys. I market them so hard because I have been working exclusively with them for the past 3 years, and I would have to say that their customer service has been absolutely fantastic and everything has been smooth sailing with them. And before you check out, please use my affiliate code SNS to receive 12% off of your purchase. Alright, members of the chapter, please let me know what you thought of my assessments of these two Victrix Guard. Do you agree with my conclusion? And even if you do or do not agree with my conclusions, please let me know what you think about them in the comments below. Which action figure would you get if given a choice? And so, members of the chapter, thank you so much for tuning into this action figure comparison video. I hope to be doing more of these in the future. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.